All right, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, a conversation dedicated to growing your faith, building community, and growing kingdom businesses. So today we're going to be talking about a really special community here in Houston, Texas, and I have my friend Vinh here. So we're going to be diving into some great stuff, talking about what he's got going on. And I think this conversation is so cool to me because, you know, a lot of times on this podcast, we're talking about building community, right? And I use community as a marketing strategy for my clients. It's a way to get your ideal clients, your target people all in a group, right? So you can nurture them and get them ready to buy the product that you have or the service or join your ministry, right? So it's a really a way of creating like almost like a sales funnel, right? But make it more of a circle instead of a triangle. Like, hey, let's do community, right? Let's make it really feel really natural and really valuable to people, right? And I think this is something that is almost, I think it's a biblical framework. Like the first thing Jesus did when he started his ministry was he went and got the disciples, right? He got a group of 12 guys to do life with, to pour into them, to expand the gospel, right? And so I think the idea of using community for business is kind of a biblical framework that we can use in business, right? I love it. But we're going to talk today about more of a faith community that you have going on. So why don't you introduce yourself, tell us what you got going on about your community, and then we'll jump in, man.
Greetings. My name is Vinh, and today I guess we'll talk about my ministry. It started in 2022, September 2022, which happened to be Suicide Prevention Month. And that was a big heart of our ministry, which is suicide prevention and mental health awareness.
And what's the name of it?
It's called Miles of Grace, and it actually started to morph into because I didn't have any experience. I felt led to do it, and as it started evolving, I realized that what it really is a ministry of presence. What we are is a ministry of presence, and and I think that that's like at the core of suicide prevention and mental health is that like there are a lot of people out there that don't have someone to talk to, and not just someone to talk to, but like someone that will listen. You know, and the ministry of presence is really that. It's like, you know, it says that the Holy Spirit is the counselor, right? He's the ultimate counselor, and what do counselors do best? They listen. The Lord says, what is it? Be slow to speak and quick to listen. You know, and that's why He gets us and He understands us, right? And so, you know, love is patient as well. So it's a space for us it's become a community where we learn to hold space for people, to listen without judgment, right? And sometimes people just need to get things off their chest, and then we lean into God's presence, which is He's the ultimate listener. You know, He's the ultimate person, and you know, with His wisdom and with His love, guides people to healing and to wholeness. Yeah,
I love that. So, you know, the terms of community and faith-based, that's not something new to us, right? Like every church has small groups, and, you know, we do community really well in religious disciplines and spaces, right? So talk about how this community is different, like how this is making impacts on people, and not necessarily to compare, you know, against something else, but just like what's really making this space impactful, and who's in it, like who are the people that are attracted to this? I know you said people who need someone to talk to, but kind of like give us a picture of what this has looked like in
so
reality.
I mean, like when we first started, we were more of an outreach group, and you know, the vision was to be at different events, and you know, I love riding motorcycles and kind of like the motorcycle community. And so, you know, and there's a lot of like, you know, in that community, it's like people don't usually talk about their feelings and stuff, you know? And so I wanted to reach out to the events, the motorcycle rallies and stuff like that, and to just, you know, spread love and to spread, you know, awareness for therapy, for listening, for prayer, for these things, and normalize that, hey, you have somebody to talk to out here. So that was our mission in the beginning. And then now, you know, we have weekly meetings where it's just a safe space for people of all different types. And the types of people that come are all different kinds. You know, they look different. they're from different industries, they're from different parts of town.
Right. Are they all believers?
Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not, because it's just like, hey, like, because there are broken people everywhere.
Right.
And God loves all of us. Right.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's trying to introduce himself to people. Right. And the thing is, like, I've just invited people who I thought, like, hey, like, you can see that they need love. You can see that they need community. You can see that. And it's just like, or they're going through something, and it's like, hey, just come by and come eat, come chill, and let's talk, let's just be around good people. Because I realized, like, before this happened, I was going through something in my own life where I went through, these different experiences. And I realized, like, as much of a believer as I was, I didn't have a community. Like, I contacted, my friends, or like, but it's not like a support group is different than friends. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, like, you can have people in your life, like you have family, friends, whatever, that you hang out with, or that whatever. But a support group is people you call to, like, when things go down, you know what I mean? Like, things or when you need, like, support, you need to talk about certain things, and it's not just about hanging out, or it's not just about, family stuff. Like, it's just like, man, and sometimes those people are too close. Right, where, like, they're too close to the situation, so they'll have a biased opinion. But you need to be around people who are going to listen, who are not judgmental, and who are plugged into the Lord, so that it's love that pours out.
And I think something I want to call out from that is, I always talk about, like, finding your niche, right? Finding your tribe, your audience. And I think what makes y'all's community so special is that everyone is dealing with a similar problem, right? A similar stage or emotional that they're trying to get support for. It's not just like, oh, go hang out with my friends. It's like, hey, I'm with a group of people who are going through something similar to me that understand what's going on. Right. So then that the support is very targeted and is intentional. So I think that's so important when you're building a community, is like not just making it a group for anyone, right? But making your group for a specific group of people, so that it can be impactful, it can be intentional, and you can really get down into, like, hey, here's what we need. And we're not spending time trying to, like, educate things for people who don't understand. You know what I mean? A family member may need you to really break it down for them why what you're going through. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, we've had, and any of this is, like, it's not me, right? Because in the beginning, I didn't even want to do this. Like, it was one of those things where, like, I was in such a place that me and God got real deep. And, just in my prayer time and my time spent with him, he gave me this, like, inspiration.
Wow.
And I was just like, if you want me to do this, you got to confirm it for me, because I'm no minister. Like, I'm just some dude, I'm just some guy, right?
Rides a bike.
And yeah, exactly. And I've made plenty of mistakes. I've hurt plenty of people, like I'm not some guru, you know what I mean? So in the same, and then it just, one thing led to another, and he led me to do this. So any of the, I guess, testimonies or any of the, like, victories that we've gotten along the way is all God. It's not, I just facilitate, I just open the space. And I think a lot of times, like, people in any field, whether you're a believer or not, when you're doing something that you don't know, you typically are looking at your own strength in things. You know what I mean? But it's like, a lot of times showing up is more than half the battle already. Like, that allows for things to happen. So, like, not to run off a tangent, but, like, anybody you have a dream, a young person that has a dream or is interested in something, or maybe a person that is, like, in their 30s or 40s or 50s that wants to learn something new, but they're intimidated. It's like, the first step is just to take a step, right? Is the leap of faith, right? And so anyway, going back to what we're talking about, we've had people convert from Islam to and follow Christ now, you know, or Buddhists that follow Christ now. And it's less about necessarily following Christ, but, like, falling in love with him, like, really knowing him. And that's the heart of our mission. Like, we do all these extra things. We do all these things to kind of, like, supplement it. But at the end of it, at the middle of it, the core of it is to truly know him in such a way personally that you're changed forever. You know, it's knowing someone so incredible, so mind blowing that like you can't help but be different.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I love that because that feels so natural. That feels less of like a group that has an agenda to get people saved.
Exactly. It's like and plus we can't save anybody.
Yeah.
We can't save anybody, you know? It's just there's a quote, I forgot who it's from, but it's basically saying like we as believers, as Christians, like we can't walk around acting like we're righteous because we have no right to be. We're just one beggar showing another beggar where to find bread. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's all that it is, you know? And the cool part about the community also is that like, it's not just like overly spiritual. Like we've celebrated each other's birthdays, you know, and some of these people have never had a birthday. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, or they didn't have family or nothing. It's like, and during Christmas time or whatever. So it's just like, we pray for one another. We look after one another. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Bro,
it's kind of,
That's so good. So take us into your story because you mentioned kind of briefly that you and God kind of had like kind of a stalemate, right? You're like, God, you're calling me into this thing and I'm in this place and I don't know how to do it. So talk about your story. What kind of what was going on in your life personally that kind of led you to the beginning of Miles of Grace Community?
Where do I begin? In the beginning. No. In the beginning,
that's where we need the sound. Cue the sound.
Yes. My mother met my father. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I guess growing up, I've always like I'm Vietnamese American, you know, and in our culture, you know, you have either Buddhists or you have Catholics or you have kind of like agnostics, right? Like whatever, a higher power, right? And growing up in New York, New Jersey area, you know, there's a lot of Catholics up there. So I kind of grew up in Catholic school and all that stuff. And I've always kind of just been sensitive to philosophy and spiritualism and all these things. So I've always kind of been on a search for God and love and meaning and all these things. And so fast forward, you know, I make a lot of mistakes, you know, trying to figure it out, and it's an exploration, right?
Right.
And, you know, I'm 35 now. A couple years ago, I think in 2021, I had hit a rock bottom that I've never hit before. And it's the rock bottom that you hit after you do everything right. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, like it's different when like you screw up or like you try something and you fail because you failed at it. You did things wrong, right? Like, or you were selfish or you did these things. But I was doing things at the time I thought I was being selfless, you know?
Well, what was the context of what was happening?
So I was just, you know, without going into too much detail, I was just, I was trying to love people with my own limited knowledge of love.
Okay.
And it was codependent. It was self-centered, even though I thought I was being selfless, but it was really self-centeredness. There was a lack of patience. There was a lack of, you know, and it really, what it boiled down to was, I'll just tell you what happened, right? So there was a day that like I was going through a depression, going through a heartbreak, going through these things and wondering like, God, like why, like I did what you told me to do. I loved people beyond my own capacity. Like I was patient with people. I was kind. I gave more than I had. I like did all these things, right? And yet like, why am I still here holding things like they're falling apart, right?
Right.
And there in my kitchen, you know, like sitting on the floor, holding my knees, you know, like just picture it now, picture it. But, you know, basically like I just felt the Lord saying like, you did do what I told you to do, but you did it without me. So in the same way, I feel like a lot of believers take God's wisdom and use it without God. And for instance, I'll give an example, like it's say like you want to build a tree house and your dad writes a blueprint to build the tree house. But you didn't see in the fine print that those blueprints were made to do in unison with him. It's not like take the blueprints and run and go build it yourself, right? And a lot of times we do that with God's wisdom, right? And so that's what I was doing. I was like, okay, well, God says love people and do this and do that and be a giver and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I wasn't plugged into the source that would have given me the power to even do those things. Right. Wow. So to go back to the story, I was, broken. And, a lot of times we're in our depression, we're so focused on our own pain that we can't see anything else. Okay. It hurts so bad. Like we can't see anything else. It seems like it's insurmountable. And that's when I had an experience where I just didn't want to be here anymore. Like I felt like, I just wanted to disappear. I don't know if you ever felt something like that, where it just feels like everything's crap, nothing works, anything I try sucks, and it's just like, why am I even here? Like you made a mistake, God. Like just take me now, right? Just like, and that's when he was like, "You're so focused on your own pain that you don't see what I'm trying to do, and you did it without me. You have to be plugged into me." So. Starting from there,
and that all happened Suicide Prevention Month.
Yes, right? Well, yeah, that happened like the very early month, probably like in the first or the second, and then a 2 or 3 weeks later, that's when I kind of had like this moment, right? Because from that moment, he was like, "I need you to take your eyes off of yourself." So part of this journey is also taking our eyes off of ourselves, right? That's the self-centeredness part. We're feeling this hurt. We're feeling like we need some sort of reciprocation for the work that we put out there, for the love that we put out there. Where's my return? Where's my return of investment, right? Like, and it's just like love doesn't do that. Love is not self-seeking, right? Love gives because it's love, and that's what it does. It just gives, right? And I didn't know that. So, and so that's why I was feeling offended, right? Like, because that's what we feel slighted. We feel offended. So God was like, I need you to step out of the kitchen, hand that situation over to me. And in the meantime, I want you to do this. Serve your brothers and sisters. Get plugged back into me. Spend time with me. Wow. You're too focused on yourself. You're toiling. You're manipulating and toiling and working on that. And it's like, you can't fix what you broke. Like hand it to me and go do this. And I was like, okay. And that's when obedience comes in, because like at that point, you can't rationalize things. You just have to either say, yes, sir, or no, right? Like it's one of those. It's one of those, right? Yeah. It's like you can't stand there and be like, well, you have to make a decision. So I was like, okay, obviously my best thinking got me into this situation. I'm going to just trust you. I'm going to just do what you say, even though I might not understand it sometimes. So that's what I started doing. I started getting plugged back into the church. I started to serve on teams that, I used to not, because I'm from media. So anytime that I was serving on the church, I was like in the media team, like as a photographer, when people are crying, like get real close, like real close, get the dramatic moment,
Sidebar, you're one of the most talented creatives that I know. So this is so interesting to me to hear more of your story, because I'm like, wow, like the layers, right? Of like, you think somebody is one thing and they're like
so many, and I'm trying to like keep it concise, but like another thing is like, okay, the sidebar, right? We're talking about the creative aspect. For a long time that I thought that was my identity, right? And this is a message for young people, right? Like it's good to chase after the talents and the gifts that God has given you. At the same time, that's not your identity. What you do is not your identity. Like who you are and whose you are is your identity, right? And so for a long time, for many years, I've been doing media, like video, photography and stuff like that for over 10 years, like before Instagram started, right? Like, and so at this point, it was kind of like, who am I, right? Like, am I just photography and video and directing and that type of stuff? So anyway, so I wanted to get into I wanted to serve in a way that would bring me closer to God. And so I joined the prayer team, right? Which like, I didn't pray enough. I felt like, so, okay, let me learn how to pray from these warriors, right? Yeah. And so I got in there, and to me, the prayer team of any church is like the Navy SEALs.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, you don't see them, but when they need to do the heavy lifting, they're the ninja team that like, is the one that's interceding for people. You know, like at church services, a lot of people don't know this, but like when people go to a church service, there's actually a intercessory prayer team in the back room praying for those people that are in the congregation. You know, and a lot of times we just go. So doing that, oh my God, when you start praying for other people, it starts changing your heart, man. It just like, nothing brings you closer to the Lord than humble serving other people and praying for other people. Because what happens is, if self is the opposite of love, right? If your ego is the opposite of love, because Jesus says to die to ourselves, right? That's what it is. Ego is the flesh. And so when you start doing things that are against the ego, like serving people, being humble, even when other people are wrong, right? Like serving people like they're better than you, right? Like that they're not better, but more significant than you, right? Like that's how Jesus, if you looked at him when he washed other people's feet, he is God. If anything, we should be begging to wash his feet.
Right.
And yet he's there doing like a slave's work.
Wow.
For us who don't deserve it, right? And it's like when we align ourselves, when we pray that's why when God says like pray for your enemies, like that was such an awkward thing that I had to do. And it was something that the Lord led me to. But when you do something like that, you put your heart in a posture of humility. And that's when love starts to pour into your heart. Because if your heart has bitterness, if it has selfishness, you'll never be able to see the kingdom of heaven, which is him, right? Which is his love and all these things. So anyway, moving forward, this is so many layers, but like moving forward, like I started to join the prayer team and all this stuff and then praying. And then one day in my own prayer and worship and stuff and just spending time with God, like literally, like not to be extreme, but during that time, I didn't feel good going out. I didn't feel good dating. I didn't feel good, doing the typical. I just wanted to be with the Lord.
Wow.
It was a weird thing, right? Because we try to balance. We're like, okay, I'll go to church and then I'll hang out with my friends and I'll do this and do that. But for some reason, I was like hungry. I was like thirsty for his presence. Like I didn't want to do anything else. If I was outside of it, I felt anxious.
Wow.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily like that now, but like because he's healed me. But during those moments, it's like you don't want to leave your dad.
Wow. So that overflow of that then poured into your community, right? And so I hear you saying is there's this like I love when you said like the opposite of love is like ego, right? So like if like love and community are that sounds almost kind of synonymous to me. Like if you're going and loving other people, you're building a community, you're getting people together, you're loving them. It's taking you outside of yourself, right? Which is the epitome of love. Right. And so there's like this correlation between love and community and just this overflow. And so I just love that. So talk about as we kind of wrap up here, talk about the power of that love that you were just pouring out just with being in the presence of God, being in this season where you're like, yo, I just got to go love on other people. And then you're pouring this community. Like, then what happened?
Here's the takeaway, right? And it's the core of our ministry and the core message of our ministry, right? Nothing matters without God, right? And when we try to love people or do things in our own strength, the love inside of us is like a battery, right? We have it. Like I can love you to a degree. I can love even, say I have a wife or whatever, like I could love them to a degree. Even my son, right? I can love him to a degree. Yeah. As much as I love him, I can only love him to the size of my battery will allow me. But when we're plugged into God, when our love with God is right, it's his love that pours through us to others. When we feel like we don't have more love to give, God, if our relationship with God is right, his love pours through us when we don't have enough, and it goes to other people. So what I learned through this whole journey, like the main point of this is like Jesus said it, the 2 golden commandments: love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. And the second is equally as important: love one another as yourself. You can't do rule number 2 without rule number 1. You want to know what love is? Look to God. You want to know what love looks like? Look at God. You want to know how it is? You have to first receive his love. then you'll know how to love on other people.
Yeah.
Right? Jesus said it one time where the woman that was wiping his feet with perfume, expensive perfume, and wiped it with his hair, and how he was like, she's been forgiven much. That's why she loves much. Because she came to the humility and the revelation that like, man, like all this love that God is giving me, all this mercy that he's giving me, right? Like all this, like how could I not love other people that same way? Like how? Yeah. And when you're filled with that, it's just like, man, like you're able to let things go more. You're able to be humble. You're able to be patient with people, right? And he's your counselor. So anytime you're anxious about something and you call people and they're not there, even your support group can fail you, right? But God will never fail you because he's always with you.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
bro, that's so good.
Sorry, there's a lot.
No, you're good. I think there's just an overflowing of everything God's been doing in you. And I mean, I think this is just a great, segue as we close. I guess for someone who's watching this is like, yo, this guy, I got to get more of this guy, right? Like
more of him.
Yeah, obviously more of God, but through you, right? I just love your expression of the love of God.
It's friendship, bro. Yeah. It's really friendship. Like what I learned in this journey so far is that like the highest form of any relationship, whether it's between you and your parents, you and your kid, you and your wife, you and your friends, the highest form of that relationship is friendship, right? And that's why I believe that Jesus said, like, there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friend. Yeah. He didn't say for one's parents, for one's kid, for one's, right? Yeah. It's friendship. And in friendship, if you can learn to enjoy the pleasure of his company and become friends with God in such a way, like a reverential friend, like being friends with a king, right? Yeah. Like, dude, that's my dearest, deepest friend, right? Yeah. Then out of that overflow, everything else becomes like beautiful, right? Like then that's where the power and the love flows, right? But anyway,
bro, that's so good, man. So how can people get involved in Miles of Grace, follow you? What's your info?
So we have our website up. We're updating a bunch of things, but if you just hit us up on Instagram or shoot us an email off of the form, off of the website, milesofgrace.org. Okay. Follow us at milesofgrace.org. And then, you can follow me as well at Vinh Luong Studios on Instagram.
You're also a realtor? Like that? Shameless plug. You can sell your house.
You need to buy, sell, or lease. Contact me today. But in the Houston area. And, we're looking to do kind of like a 2.0 version, a hard reset, and being out there more, just doing the activations again and all that stuff. So, but just contact us, shoot us an email or fill out the form, and we'll let you know, if you're in the Houston area, that we'll have weekly meetups. Okay. And, we'd love to get to know you.
Yeah, for sure. So I hope as you watch this, you have been inspired to see how the love of Christ flowing through us can impact your community, how you can, just find clarity in your life, find friendship with God through building community. So whether you're doing that through a ministry or doing that through a business, whatever, look for how you can serve other people, love other people. And I am super thankful for you joining us today, man. It's been a joy, and we should definitely do this again.
For sure. Yeah. That was amazing. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right.